Whoa. That's the cold open. Whoa.
Happy Monday, and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devil Show. I'm Anthony Totri, joined as always by my passenger princess, Erik. Ruby, I've been leaning on that one lately. We got the deli man behind the Mac making all of the magic happen. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. A lot of folks in the chat ready to talk about the latest transfer portal additions for Kenny Dillingham's Sun Devils, and man, were there a lot of them on offense and on defense. So we'll get into all of those players here throughout today's show, but I feel like we can't not talk about the news of the day. We can't not talk about one departure. And I know we won't spend a ton of time on it today.
Tony Lewis and Kuba to
Exactly. Exactly. No.
They're getting a good young corner, man.
Sam Leavitt.
Oh, that guy.
Sam Leavitt. As much as I know Arizona State fans are going to be turned off about the conversation, we promise it won't be too terribly long, but it's something we definitely have to talk about, and that is Sam Leavitt reportedly set to transfer to LSU, joining forces with Lane Kiffin after a world tour that started in Lexington, Kentucky, and ended in Miami, Florida.
As most world tours start.
Absolutely.
In Lexington, Kentucky.
And then they go back to Baton Rouge. So that's where they're at. How we feeling? How we feeling about Sammy Boy heading to the Tigers?
Just shocked.
Yeah.
We definitely didn't record an entire video on this a week ago because we're like, this was going to happen. Like, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Way more sense than Kentucky. That's for damn sure. But look, I know a lot of people are going to be preying on Sam Leavitt's downfall. I just kind of feel like at the point where I'm past it. Now you can decide however you want to be a fan, but I think Sam's got a lot to prove there, and I think he's in a good position to prove it, but LSU is going to be an interesting spot for him. I think it was the right choice, but there's nowhere to hide. You've got the weapons now. You've got the line. You've got the notoriety. You've got the NIL. You got to be the best quarterback in the country. Like, I feel like if Sam Leavitt has another year like he had this past year, even with all of the reasons why that happened, he's going to get massacred for it.
Yeah.
And kudos for him for, I guess, taking on that pressure, but I guess it's easier to take on that pressure when you're getting a big bag and, playing for a school that's going to put a bunch of NFL talent around you.
Yeah, you at this point in time, and I think we discussed it on the VOD that we recorded about it, like, it's the right decision.
Yeah.
Ultimately, out of all the schools that he was visiting, I think that was the right decision. I think if you're an Arizona State fan, this is the, if he was going to choose a school, this is the one you could blame him least for going to, right? He's going with another offensive genius in Lane Kiffin. He's got everything that him and his camp wanted, a big offensive line, no excuse to not share the rock with the skill guys that they've added, able to retain Caden Durham. So they're going to have everything to compete in the SEC this year, and I don't think you can blame Sam for that. I think if you're an Arizona State fan, two things can be true at the same time. You can root for the kid because he was an Arizona State Sun Devil, because he helped bring a conference championship to Tempe, the first one in a long while, while you can also be slightly upset with the way that things transpired down the stretch.
Yeah.
Specifically, I think if you're an Arizona State fan to this point in time, and this hasn't been something that Sam Leavitt has come out publicly and posted his, commitment or his decision, etc. Didn't even really post anything saying that he was going into the portal from a public standpoint. So I think if you're an Arizona State fan, this is a situation where you probably would have been less upset if the whole banquet situation didn't get broken the way that it did, or when it did, or that even that it happened in general, right? So I understand the frustrations of Arizona State fans where you get a bunch of Sun Devil players, Tony Lewis and Kuba being one of them, going out there and saying, you know what, Sun Devil for life, loved my time here, and then just making the decision to move on, right? Like that's something that I think a lot of ASU fans are like, okay, I get it. But that's what you wanted to see. It's what you wanted to see from the last member of that really prominent Arizona State trio that helped bring that championship to ASU in 2024. You had the Cam Scattaboo goodbye, go to the league. You had the Jordan Tyson memories goodbye, go to the league. And here you are. It's been announced that Sam Leavitt's going to LSU, and you never really got that.
No, you didn't. And that's unfortunate, right? Because at the end of the day, like Sam Leavitt for the time here is one of the better quarterbacks that you've seen at Arizona State.
Yeah.
And I know that's going to be a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, but at the same time, like it is what it is. And that's always been my thing. I've totally ripped on him for how he left. I'm not ripped on him for leaving. I think leaving, especially in the modern college football like climate, is completely understandable. We got kind of spoiled last year after the Big 12 title run, where the only people that really left were guys who went in the draft because they were out of eligibility.
Yeah.
Right. But everybody came back. Sam leaving wasn't the problem, but yeah, no public thank yous. When it's like, that's just kind of the thing that you do when you're in the transfer portal. Hey, I want to thank, even if you don't mean it. Somebody else writes it for you. A lot of these guys have AI write it for them, then they put it on a graphic that they paid somebody $50 to make.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, here's on my story. Thank you to everything at ASU. Thank God, thank all of this. And now I'm entering the transfer portal with however many years of eligibility remaining. Right? There was none of that. And for a school that helped facilitate Sam Leavitt's rise in his career from a backup to literally the top player in the portal, somebody who's getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to go play at one of the premier blue blood college football programs, you'd expect a little bit of that. Now, maybe he just doesn't want to be public with it. Okay. But it's not like he doesn't post on social media. Like, he's posted stories even throughout all of this. And of course, then the rumors and the stories, I don't even want to call it reporting, that he was shopping himself during the season. And like, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the guy won you a Big 12 championship. It was a big part of it. If you want to say Cam Scattaboo carried that team or not, like, Sam Leavitt, and we talked about it, like, was a really big part of why they won it that 1 year, why they were in the Peach Bowl, why they competed in the Peach Bowl. But it does suck that this is how it ends. But hey, man, I'm excited for the rest of the show to talk about all the other transfers that we got. The ASU has an incredible transfer class, one of the best in the country. Like, let's move on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not rooting for him. I'm not rooting against him. I will be watching what he does and observing, but I'm not going to be preying on his downfall or on his come up. Like, it is what it is with Sam Leavitt.
And that's it here several years later after the announced decision to transfer to Arizona State. That's the last time that we'll talk about Sam Leavitt on this podcast.
Until we play them in the college football playoffs.
Exactly. If LSU gets that far.
Sure.
Right. Of course. Again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review. Before we get into the players, I've got the second ASU fan today, actually, to try and start stuff with me on the internet. So Sergio saying that I'm ducking him.
U of A.
U of A fan.
What did I say?
You said ASU fan.
Yeah, U of A fan. I'm not ducking you. Where did you DM me, man? You DM me again. It's not on Twitter. I don't see it on Twitter at all. So if you DM me, I think you and I we're talking about potentially making a bet on who has more wins, ASU or U of A next season. I will gladly do that. I need you to DM me, man. I haven't seen the DM on X or on Twitter or anything. But don't want to spend too much time there. Let's talk about some of the additions for Arizona State over what was a jam-packed weekend in terms of those ads, starting on the defensive side of the ball. I know going into the weekend, Erik, there was a ton of discussion from the fan base saying, hey, you've added a bunch of offensive linemen, or you added a offensive lineman, you added some skill guys at wide receiver, you added your quarterback. You need some edge help. You need some pass rushers after losing Clayton Smith, Prince Dorba, etc. And they got a good one. They got Baylor's Emar'rion Winston, 6'4", 247, coming off his best season of his college career to this point. 18 solo tackles, 3 sacks, one of those sacks being against Utah. We know what that offensive line was this past season. They get somebody in upperclassmen that I think is immediately going to come in and compete to be a starter on this defense.
Yeah, an experienced player, which is good with how much experience is leaving this defense, even on that defensive line. as well, and somebody who's played in the Big 12. I know that you don't always want to just kind of take people from the same conference, but we talked about it with Lyric Rouse, and we'll talk about it with Emar'rion, where it's like, hey, you've scouted a lot of these teams before, a lot of these coaches that there's a lot of carryover with. Like, you've played against the Utahs, you've played against the BYUs, and I don't know, has he been at Baylor for all 3 years?
No, he was at Oregon.
He was at Oregon the
Yeah.
2 years before that. Okay, so but he's played 1 year of Big 12 football. And before that, I mean, in 2023 for Oregon, 19 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, 1 pass to defend, like no sacks, but he played on Oregon in 2023 and then played a little bit in 2024. I don't know if it was an injury or why, but he didn't play as much and didn't have as much stats, but transfers to Baylor and is an immediate impact player. I think that this isn't an under-the-radar addition in the fact that it's not a flashy name like an Amarian Miller. It's not a Reed Harris. It's not a skill position guy, but it is certainly one of those key positions of need that you've been wanting. And look, with no Noah Carter or no other like really premier edge or defensive end in the portal, like you got to imagine that the coaching staff feels really comfortable with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he played in over 30 games while he was an Oregon Duck. Whether it was, star-studded or not, like this is somebody that played significant snaps at this level at a big-time school like Oregon, of course, having his best year this past season at Baylor, and then hitting the portal. He's got 1 year left. He's going to be a redshirt senior when he gets to Arizona State here in 2026. So this is somebody you figure to be a day one starter or at least a day one rotational piece off the edge for the Sun Devils again. He's the exact size that you would want in a prototypical edge rusher at that 6'4", 247 pound size. I'm interested to see what an offseason with Coach Joe does. If this is somebody that comes in and is 250, 255 going into that 2026 season, or maybe if this is somebody that is looking to shed weight and be, maybe more of a speed guy off the edge. You don't really know until we get there and see these guys in spring ball and then fall camp. But at the end of the day, this is an addition that fills a major hole in an Arizona State defense that has been really good over the last 2 seasons at developing edge rushers, right? You look at what this team was in 2024, and the knock on them going into 2025 is, hey, they didn't sack the quarterback enough, right? They would get there, but they struggled to bring them down. How early into that 2025 season, right, were we talking about this team being one of the best in the conference, one of the best in the country at actually sacking the quarterback? Now, that's a lot of credit to Deron Reynolds, and I'm excited to see what Emar'rion Winston and some of these younger edge rushers can really do with another year with Deron at the helm.
Yeah, so Emar'rion as a prospect in high school in Oregon was a 90 on 247 Sports, so a 4-star prospect. Top 5 prospect in the state of Oregon, top 30 edge rusher in the country coming out of high school. Obviously goes and plays and commits to Oregon, right? He also in high school played linebacker as well. So he is a smart player who kind of understands the inner workings of a defense. I mean, you don't always want your guys to play a bunch of multiple positions. You want them to be very good at one position and play them there. But when you have experience, even if it's in high school, playing a different position, or these guys that play both sides of the ball, you understand things a little bit better. You can break down defenses a little bit better, and to know the type of job the guys behind you have to do and what you can do to help them out and vice versa, that's going to go a long way for, again, the experience side of things. Also somebody who in high school shedded some weight going into the senior season, was a little bit more explosive, a little bit faster. So I wonder if maybe there isn't a big change to his physique at all. If that's something that he's kind of already evaluated. He's like, I feel good where I'm at. It's just about being in a system that gets the most out of me. And like you mentioned, this is a system that gets the most out of their defensive line. I think one of the more impressive things about the 2025 season that kind of gets lost simply because it's not a season that, at the end of the day, the result is exactly what you wanted. But going into it, we talked about, hey, what's like the one maybe specific weakness of this defense? It was the defensive line actually getting to the quarterback and bringing him down. And without a lot of change on that defensive line, they improved that dramatically. And that's coaching. That's individual players that are obviously like getting better and stepping up. And so I think when you get in here, just in general as a baseline for players, we expect a little bit of improvement on where you're at before. It's why Sam is getting so much money. It's why Jordan Tyson's going top 10. It's why Cam Scadaboo made it to the NFL. It's why all these guys continue to kind of take these steps up and they want to come back like a CJ Fight, because eventually you're going to get better if you spend some time here. So all of the prospects of who Emar'rion Winston is should be exciting for Arizona State fans. I think he absolutely could be a bona fide starter and an impact player and probably one of the best defensive linemen on this team. Nothing's guaranteed, but it's nice to have experience, blue chip prospect, played at big time programs like Oregon, played at Baylor and competed a little bit more now.
Familiar with the conference.
Like, and again, somebody who didn't play high school ball in Texas, but was in Texas. There is like this kind of innate gravity from players either in high school and college that have played in Texas that are coming to Arizona State, whether it's transferring from Texas, like fellow defensive linemen that we've seen, Prince Dorba, Clayton Smith, this portal season, and Caleb Chester, or high school players that continue to commit from Texas. Jake Fetty, just for an example from this recent class. So it just seems like when you go to that state, you end up at Arizona State. And that's not a bad pipeline to have.
No, absolutely not. And I think rounding out the discussion on Winston, just of what to look for when spring ball rolls around is now it does feel like there is a little bit of a view as to what this pass rushing not combination, but competition, I guess, can look like in the fall, in spring ball. You've obviously got a younger player in Julian Hugo coming on board. You've got Albert Smith. You've got now Emar'rion Winston. You added Kirtland Vakalahi already at least over a month ago at this point in time. And then Joshua Shanklins is somebody that I think you got to look at as potentially somebody that could come in and compete again.
And you added the Hutchinson defensive lineman.
Yeah.
We'll talk about later today, JUCO D lineman that's big dude, 6'3", 300 pounds. Yeah. That could also certainly figure in as a rotation piece for you.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what this pass rush looks like for Arizona State. Alan's saying, how is our offensive line shaping up? Well, Alan, better. I'll tell you a lot better over the weekend because you got another player that can compete along the offensive line for the Sun Devils. That is Oklahoma offensive tackle Luke Baklenko. Somebody that was a starter at Stanford, was viewed more as a depth piece, a developmental piece at Oklahoma. He got some time there as a 6'6", 313-pound tackle. Left tackle, right tackle. He is definitely more of a traditional tackle than he is an interior offensive lineman. Never really started though. Didn't find time as a staple or a cornerstone at Oklahoma at any point in time. Again, transferring from Stanford to Oklahoma after 1 year at Oklahoma, leaving to go to Arizona State. Somebody that has a lot of experience playing. Again, not necessarily as a starter. And we know Arizona State. We saw it a bunch last season. Didn't really hate the idea of subbing offensive linemen in and out, whether that was a good thing, a bad thing. I think, it's up for interpretation. But I think Baklenko definitely figures to be somebody that comes in and competes at one of these tackle spots, whether that is the left side or the right side. And regardless of how you feel about the offensive line, it's just another body in there.
And that's what you needed. I mean, we have a good faith in the development of this offensive line. When you look at it like a Champ Westbrooks who, tweeted over the weekend, like I'm home, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't think that you just tweet something like that out of nowhere, right? Like I'm home, like that's going to be like, hey, like I'm here. I love this place. To have guys going out there and to put that out there isn't just like, I'm going to throw this tweet away. Who really cares? I'm just going to put that out there. Obviously, if I feel like he's a big part of your plans. You look at the two true freshmen that were shuffled in the offensive line, specifically against Texas Tech, and then for the rest of the season,
Wade him
as well. Like you have guys that you should leave room for as far as their growth and for their playing time, but you do need some more like adults in the room and guys that have played a little bit of college football, that have played some SEC football, and I do think that things will kind of figure out as the season goes on. I don't know if there's a really solid, hey, this is going to be your starting offensive line. I think there are a couple pieces that you look at and you say, yeah, we would expect that, but it doesn't look like, okay, you've got your Ben Coleman, right, at center. So I'm excited to see how that plays out through spring ball, through fall camp, and then I wouldn't be shocked if they add another offensive lineman, but I certainly feel better after this edition, and then obviously grabbing the Georgia Tech center last week as well.
Yeah. I think at this point in time, I personally would be pretty surprised if they added another offensive lineman. I think you've got your interior guy. You what we've talked about really since the portal season started as it relates to the offensive line is you have so many of those younger players that you've recruited out of the high school ranks or guys that you've gotten through the portal in previous years that are still here, that I think it's time for those guys to really take that next step forward, right? We talk a lot about Champ Westbrooks as somebody that potentially could be starting at right tackle this year, which would be huge. You obviously got the addition of a Jermaine Mitchell, the #1 JUCO player that you were able to land around the same time.
I think he starts.
Is Baklenko. I think Jermaine starts too, probably at left tackle. So then you have the conversation of, okay, where does Baklenko go in terms of the offensive line? Does he compete for right tackle? Is he a backup? Is he a rotational piece? Do they kick him and try and play him in the interior? The same conversation to be had about Makua, right? Somebody that was playing center and guard last year. Wade Helton, same thing. Is there somebody that we're not talking about, right, that maybe makes that elevation in spring ball that starts to be a standout guy that you really just you can't not have him out there on the offensive line? So I think this year, it's certainly when we get to spring ball, it's going to be a much heftier competition along the offensive line. I don't know if there is going to be a competition to look out for more in the spring ball. And I know there's going to be people that talk about quarterback with Fetty and Cutter, and then, of course, Keene, and then maybe you throw in Cam Dyer in there as well. But for me specifically, I feel like given what we saw in 2025, I'm going to be far more invested in what this 5 looks like up front. And can you get back to doing what you did in 2024? Of course, keeping your quarterback upright. And then, of course, creating those lanes for your running backs.
Well, and we've seen that they're not afraid to make an offensive line starting change close to the season.
Yeah.
I know that happened in 24. I feel like that happened in 25. I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, but it feels like it was both years they made some sort of shift on the offensive line.
There was conversation right before the season about, is Ben Coleman your starting center?
That's right, yeah. And you were trying to figure out if he was going to start at center or he was not going to start at center. So they're not afraid to change some things up.
Absolutely not.
And Coach Westbrooks in the chat says Coach T likes to have a rotation of like 7 to 8 guys.
Yeah.
So again, you've
Jalen Clem, somebody we didn't bring up as well.
Jalen Clem is also somebody who, when he transferred here, was somebody that we are like, oh yeah, that guy could start because he was a part of an award-winning best offensive line of the country at Washington, and obviously for reasons outside of his control, he has not really been able to play as much here at Arizona State as you would have expected when he transferred in, but he was a really big-time transfer portal addition. So I feel confident about the offensive line. I always feel like you can never have enough. I don't know if that's necessarily the position that you need to target the most. I think you're kind of starting to wind down on what you need to target in the transfer portal. I think you've had a very well-rounded class.
Very well-rounded,
kind of just methodically gone through and checked all the boxes. I would never hate more of either of the positions we've already talked about today. Edge or defensive lineman and then offensive lineman. Never enough on a roster, but I would feel confident if these were the groups that we were looking at going into spring ball. I'd feel like there's winning combinations on both sides of the trenches.
1,000%. Well, look, there is one position room that certainly got a lot more interesting over the weekend. We're going to tell you which room it is and why on the other side of our first break.
ASU's been busy remodeling their team in the transfer portal, and you can remodel your home with the Window Depot. Now, I know what you're thinking. You hear the Window Depot and you think, oh, it's just windows, but you're wrong. Since 2002, they've been bringing the Valley windows, doors, skylights, cabinets, countertops, sinks, and more with tons of inventory in stock and ready for pickup. And here's the thing. Contractors love the Window Depot, not just for their job site ready quantities, but unbeatable prices, expert service, and no membership required. They have the best price and the biggest inventory with 7 locations across Arizona, and windows proudly manufactured right here in state. You know we love supporting our local companies. And of course, you can check them out whether you're in Phoenix, if you're struggling around in Tucson, Marana, Chandler, everything. You can do it with the Window Depot. Plus, they have in-house designers. They are more than just a window store. Visit thewindowdepot.com to get started on your next project today, or stop by one of the Window Depot's 7 Arizona locations and see for yourself why it's more than just a window store.
I need you guys to grab your calendar and grab the nearest pen, pencil, or marker and mark February 3rd. Don't worry, Rubus. You still have some time because this year our friends over at Don Julio are returning to the Valley on February 3rd through the 8th and taking over, of course, one of the biggest sporting events here in the Valley, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Of course, they're offering a range of fun experiences and activities all week that you aren't gonna want to miss out on. First, the main attraction, which is going to be set up at the Fairway House above the 12th hole, where you guys can get a margarita on draft, take a photo with the Don Julio truck, and even get complimentary water. It may sound small, but we know from experience you're going to need that complimentary water when the Waste Management Phoenix Open comes to town. So if you're planning on attending the tournament this year, make sure to visit our friends at Don Julio across the venue and tell them PHNX sent you. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and head to GoPHNX.com and click that little events tab. And something you're going to see is that PHNX Hockey is set to take over Mullet. That's right. Join Leah and the PHNX hockey crew as ASU Hockey takes on St. Cloud State on Friday, February 6th. Of course, the package is going to include a pregame meetup. Location still TBD with food and drinks. You're going to get that game ticket, the vibes, the hangs, and of course, your favorite Valley hockey crew. And don't forget, diehards getting 20% off too. Again, PHNX taking over Mullet Friday, February 6th. Head to GoPHNX.com and click that events tab to learn more. Ruby, there have been a lot of conversations since the start of the transfer portal window about needs and wants for Arizona State from the fan base. Hey, you need offensive linemen. Hey, you need edge rushers. Hey, let's go get some wideouts. One position that I don't think anybody said, hey, you need more of is tight ends. And yet, here we are on a Monday following a big transfer portal weekend for the Sun Devils, and they added 2 of them.
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't talk about it. I don't know why we didn't talk about it, though. I mean, so Hartpool, I believe, was he out of eligibility?
Hartpool is out of eligibility, so he's gone.
You lost your top 2 tight ends this year.
You lost Shimon and Cameron Hartpool.
And Cameron Hartpool was actually somebody who was receiving a little bit.
Yeah, he was.
Primarily a blocking tight end. Shimon was one of your most consistent receivers, your security blanket, as we called it. I don't know why we didn't talk about the tight end room as much.
I think it was more
you
so.
You lost Shaden Fortier. Who was more of like a wide receiver tight end hybrid who never played, but again, a body that you lost.
I think it was more so because you look at, like, you were always bringing back Kamari Anderson.
Yes,
right?
And AJ is still there.
AJ is still here.
This team loved having more tight ends.
Well, you added 2 in your class, right? You got your Hayden Vircher, and you got Landon Myrie. So we're talking.
Is Myrie to play tight end or linebacker?
Myrie's going to play tight end.
Okay.
So you've got a bunch of young tight ends in this room. I think everybody expected the elevation of AJ Ia this coming season, which I'm excited to see. And I think Kamari Anderson is more of your traditional pass-catching style tight end. I'm interested to see what he looks like in terms of like run blocking here in 2026. But I think the additions that you added and did get to the tight end room, one, I think they're going to be really beneficial on special teams, just based off of what they've done in the past. And I don't think it hurts to take flyers on guys that have pretty solid size for that position, specifically a guy transferring over from Portland State in Christian Ingman, somebody that's 6'5", 235 pounds. I bring up the special teams stuff, because you lost a lot of special teams guys based off of eligibility and transfer portal stuff, but somebody who, as a true freshman in 2024, was not only a tight end in special teams, but he was a team's long snapper. Right. And I think Dilly had brought this up jokingly sometime maybe this year of like, you can never have too many guys that know how to snap the ball. Right. Based off of what you had at center and long snapper, et cetera. Now, do I think that he's going to come in and be your day one long snapper? No.
I don't think he transferred here as a long snapper.
No, you added a long snapper already, but somebody who is a relatively young player with some experience that had a pretty solid season last year at Portland State, like as a true receiver. Somebody with 23 catches, 342 yards, didn't find the end zone. But nonetheless, he's got playing experience. And I think similar to the conversation that we've had kind of across the board, specifically the conversation we just had about Luke along the offensive line transfer from Oklahoma to Arizona State, is you've got it's a young room, right? Yeah. You don't have a lot of older players. And no, Ingman is not somebody that's coming in with 4 years of D1 experience, but somebody that is coming in with some playing experience, somebody that has experience playing on offense, playing on special teams, and I think will immediately come in and have he'll be a part of the competition. The question obviously remains is what will he look like among some of these young tight ends? But like we said with the offensive line, I don't think it hurts to add bodies in this room. I think the biggest head scratcher to me was he was one of two tight ends he added.
Yeah, and before we get the other one, I think that's more of your blocking tight end. I'll get there in a second. But does Ingman have more catches than any other tight end in the room currently for his career with 23? Like, how much does Kamari have for his career? I think he has 23 catches.
That's a good question. I think you're right. I think he comes in
because he's like AJ, not really any college experience, right? Hayden Virtue, no college experience.
Kamari has a total of 11 catches throughout his career.
And again, like, I'm not saying that Ingman's going to walk in here and be a starter, but I don't see why he couldn't be. At least somebody is your primary like pass catcher. Yeah. I think AJ is certainly the guy that you would hope becomes tight end one. There's a lot of internal buzz about AJ and a lot of external buzz about AJ. I drafted him on my guys draft going into the season. You do hope that he sees the field more, but again, hasn't really played college football. I get it. It's Portland State. Sometimes people will turn their nose up at a Portland State, but we can't do that over here because of the amount of talent that we've gotten from schools like that. I mean, if you wrote off Xavier Guillory, right, for playing at Idaho State before he came here, or was it just Idaho?
I think it was Idaho State.
Idaho State. It was the Vandals.
Do you know?
Idaho or Idaho State for
I think it was Idaho.
Idaho State. He was a Vandal.
Idaho State. Yeah. And so
indoor field, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Indoor field.
Love
Idaho
that for college.
State. But like if you turned your nose up on that, like you'd be turning down on a really, really solid, impactful receiver for Arizona State and his time here. So there's certainly a chance that this guy comes in here and is a part of the rotation and is somebody who has maybe the steadiest, most proven hands, albeit at a lower level, but still proven and still harder than high school football than anybody else on this roster right now. Kamari, obviously having been here for a year, did play a little bit last year, saw some action. AJ saw a little bit of action, obviously not a lot, but was at Arizona State in the facilities for a year, so they might have a leg up, but 23 catches is over double than what Kamari had last year.
Yeah, that's true. So. And again, you bring in the young guys. I'm interested to see kind of how they figure in here when you get to spring ball, how many of them are actually here. And then, of course, you added another tight end, Anthony Miller Jr., transferring over from Tulane. I think the reason you bring him up as somebody that's probably your blocking tight end is just based off the size.
He's huge.
He's ginormous for a tight end, 6'5", 265 pounds.
New Rhino?
No, I don't even think. What was the Rhino?
He was almost 300 pounds.
Yeah, he looked.
I think he was 285.
He was ginormous. This guy's 265.
I thought he was 300.
A 300-pound tight end would be a hippopotamus. That would not be a Rhino.
And I want that for Christmas.
You want a hippopotamus or a tight end?
I was.
No, I got you. I'm just curious.
I want a hippopotamus tight end.
Huge.
Ooh. I want a hippopotamus tight end for Christmas. Only a hippopotamus tight end will do.
I really know somebody just clicked on the stream right then.
The funniest part is like you can't see me, so I'm just like a disembodied voice singing that.
Yeah. Aaron says Marcuston Douglas was listed at 285. I whatever he was listed at was wrong. That man was ginormous. He was not 285 pounds.
If he was listed at 400, he was 425.
Yeah, he was not light 285. He was a heavy 310. So you have somebody again, not with a ton of experience. I believe he was Anthony Miller was a sophomore this past season at Tulane. Again, didn't like break any records through the air, 5 catches for 60 yards and 1 touchdown. But again, somebody that I think is going to come in and help Arizona State establish the run, something that I think this is an offense that is accustomed to doing that with a staff that is accustomed to being able to run the football. And I don't think they were able to run the football with the same effectiveness that they wanted to this past season that they did in 2024. And I think Anthony Miller comes in, probably replaces your Cameron Harpool in being able to do that.
Well, I think in losing those two guys is so important. Like you mentioned, like Harpool was mainly a blocking guy, but he got a touchdown this year.
Yeah,
like,
he did. He First touchdown of his career.
He actually caught, what was his stats for this year? Because he caught a surprising amount of passes for like what we expected out of him. He had 13 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown.
I mean, I'll take it.
Right? He had almost 100 yards on the season, which I know people.
It's a really solid game.
For Cameron Hartwell, you're going in the season, you're like, oh, he might have like a couple catches, right? He's going to mainly be blocking. He was somebody that, made a couple of plays, a couple of big catches too. I believe he was the one who caught the fake extra point as well, where they snapped it directly to the kicker.
Yeah, you might be right on that.
I think he was the one who caught that. But either way, you need somebody to go in there and to block. And look, like Tulane, like had a good year.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
like that's a good program.
Yeah,
that's been playing really well. So it's good to be able to.
I mean, they're a playoff team.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's good to like identify guys who maybe aren't like statistically going to stand out from that team, but are impact players, and coming from a good program and going to another team that wants to make college football playoffs, obviously at a Power 4 level here. Like it's not something to like do backflips over, but it certainly makes sense. And we talk about helping the offensive line and adding offensive line pieces. Like sometimes your tight end is your extension of your offensive line, and so you put him out there and you're like, hey, if we can shore up that part of it as well, that's going to make running the ball a lot easier this year. And who knows? Like, it's not like he can't catch the ball. They've certainly found a way to incorporate.
Yeah, I mean, you're not a D1 tight end if you can't catch the ball.
Right. Like, they've incorporated their blocking tight ends a little bit more into their actual receiving game, probably to keep people honest. So he's got the ability to do that too.
Before we get into some of the other additions, obviously there have been additions that this team has made and this program has made throughout this transfer portal cycle where it's like, okay, wow, didn't see that coming, but you didn't see it coming for like a different reason, right? You didn't see maybe the Reed Harris one coming because it was off the heels of an Emar'rion Miller and you had already added, Raiden Vines Bright. So it was like, did they really add another star receiver? Boom, they did. Maybe you look at the Mikey Keene edition and you're like, wow, they added another quarterback, right? Some people maybe didn't want him to, etc. Are these two the most surprising to you to this point in time, or no? And I don't mean
maybe like in the moment, but then when you think about you lost your top two tight ends, like,
well, I get you lose your
really surprised.
I get you lose your top two tight ends, and I think that was maybe we just didn't talk about that.
I think we did gloss over it like a little bit.
I feel like the reason we glossed over it was because of the young tight ends that you already had on the roster and that you were bringing in. Like
you had nobody proven really. But
are we saying that this is like these are true proven tight ends? No, because they're both young.
I'm not saying you're bringing in the proven tight ends. I'm just saying, like, is it a shock that they add bodies to the room without somebody?
I'm not saying like shock as in like a negative thing. I'm saying more so like
expected. Like when the notification came through, because you're following at PHNX Sun Devils, so you know when everybody commits. You're like,
I literally texted you. I'm like, where did you see this?
Oh, yeah,
I'm like, where did you see this commitment?
Himself, which was so baller. It was so baller. To tweet it yourself is so great. No, but I mean, I think so. When Anthony Miller got added, it was like, okay, this is going to be your blocking tight end. That kind of makes sense. Get a guy in the room. You haven't had another tight end in this portal season. Your only additions are coming in as true freshmen, which AJ Ia was about as good of a prospect as you can get as a tight end as a true freshman. No, as a true freshman, didn't play. Right? So it's like, are you going to have these two guys come in and Hayden Vercher and Landon Emar'rion and be like, oh, you are going to play? It's certainly possible, but I don't think you bank on it for the type of program Arizona State's trying to be. So like, okay, Anthony Miller, that makes sense. Not a big deal, not a game breaker. And then it was, okay, you add another tight end later. And I think on paper you go, okay, two tight ends, do you need it? But they're two different tight ends that I think do two very different skills. And you lost two tight ends, your starting tight ends. You add bodies to the room. So maybe the most like initial questioning. But after that, like, and plus, I don't think there was a lot of shocking moves in this portal cycle because they needed a lot of positions. They needed a kicker. They needed a punter. They needed a long snapper. They needed corners. They needed defensive line. They needed offensive linemen. They needed me listing things, which is what I do all the time.
The lister.
Like the hashtag lister. But I don't know if I've really been genuinely shocked minus some of these like huge additions after the huge additions. But maybe this is the most.
Well, let us know. Let us know in the comments how surprised you were, if at all, that Arizona State added not one but two tight ends over the weekend. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Still a ways to go here on this Monday edition of the PHNX Sun Devils show. Two more transfer portal additions to discuss. Also going to dive into Arizona State's conference win over Kansas State. All that on the other side of our second break. Look, a bunch of our partners here at PHNX, they try and help you save money every single day. So we got a little bit of a rare one for you today. And our friends over at Arizona Lottery, well, Erik, they're trying to help you make money. So a little bit of a change up, and they're trying to help you do it with their multiplier scratchers. They're the perfect way to add to your life. With multiplier scratchers from the Arizona Lottery, you guys can multiply the good things in life. Of course, we're talking the vacation, relaxation, and then, of course, the big one here, celebration. Because with over $270 million in prizes, that's right, over $270 million in prizes, you guys could win big enough to do more of the things you love. Multiplier tickets start at just $1, and they've got prizes up to $5 million. Feels like it's worth
a good trade-off.
It's worth the dollar on that one. Look, with access to over 3,500 retailers across the state, you guys can play whenever and, of course, whenever you'd like.
Look, not all the time do you get to watch greatness happen, especially here locally. I mean, we got some good teams, and unfortunately, some teams are struggling, but it's always greatness at the Phoenix Raceway. And March 5th through the 8th, it's history happening for the first time on that track. It's the NTT IndyCar Series plus the NASCAR race on the same weekend. And with the best access in motorsports, you can go inside the garage, walk the track, meet the drivers, catch the pre-race concert, and no sport brings the fans closer by upgrading to the Desert Diamond Casino in-field experience at the Phoenix Raceway. You can watch the 2025 Cup Series champion Kyle Larson return to the track where he won it all just a couple of months prior. So make sure you tune in this spring as NASCAR weekend at Phoenix Raceway is making history with NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series in the same track on the same day. Secure your seats now at the link in our description and hear them go vroom, but way better than that.
You want to do it one more time? There you go. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button.
That was pretty good.
Drop a 5-star review wherever you get
like
your podcasts. A couple more additions to talk about over the weekend for ASU. Let's start as a defensive at the defensive tackle spot. Jeffrey Manns II, a 6'3", 300-pound DT from Hutchinson Community College, transferring over for the Sun Devils. Had 31 tackles last year, 7.5 TFLs, and 4 sacks as a sophomore in 2025. I know people are going to see the JUCO, the community college label, and they're probably going to write him off. But this is somebody that has the exact, again, size that you're looking for as an interior defensive lineman. Somebody that is, and I know Shane will love this one, reminiscent of a Nesta Jade Silvera for me at this position.
My goat, dude. God, I love that guy. Remember when he squirted a water bottle at USC?
Yeah, at Caleb Williams.
At Caleb, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Now their careers have gone separate ways.
Yep.
But I think talking about this position specifically, this was another one of those positions where you didn't, outside of CJ Fight, you have a bunch of guys that potentially could be playing at this spot. Michael Gardner, whether he's an interior or interior defensive lineman or they kick him outside. Zach Swanson. I know somebody had brought up Rashad McKenzie in there. That's another name. And then, of course, the younger players, the Ramar Williams in there, the Deshaun Morgans. And now you bring in another guy that has some playing experience, yes, at a lower level, but all signs point to him being, again, a part of this interior defensive tackle competition.
Yeah, top 100 player nationally in JUCO, top 20 defensive lineman JUCO player, top 25 Texas JUCO player. Again, another person from Texas. Also won a state championship in Texas in high school. So you keep on keeping on that pipeline. Won a national championship at the JUCO level as well in 2024. So this is somebody who's like won championships at every level that he's played at. But the most important thing, and this is probably something that I'm the first one to bring this up.
Wow, the first one.
Do you want to know what his at is on Twitter?
Is it the Mans?
It's at Dog Mans. DAWGMANNS.
Oh,
Dog
man.
Mans.
Dog man. I'm calling him Dog Man.
Dog Man.
100%.
Dog Man II?
Yeah.
Because he's the second. So was his dad the first Dog Man?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's Dog Man.
But he's just known as Dog Man. because there is.
Please, Mr. Dogman is my father's name.
Just call me Dog.
Dogman Senior.
Call me Dog.
Call me Dogman.
Mr.
Not
Man,
Mr. Dogman.
Mr. Man is my father.
Mr. Oh, look, regardless, I think this is a position you could never have enough of in terms of interior defensive linemen. And I know we talked about it with the edge rushers, but losing Jacob Kangaika definitely hurts. It certainly helps to be able to retain CJ Fite, not have him go to the NFL. But this overall is just going to look like a completely new defensive line outside of CJ Fite. So I'm really, really excited to see again. And I know I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but there's going to be so much competition at some key spots for ASU when you hit spring ball, at offensive line, at corner, at wide receiver, running. And it's a cliche in sports and football specifically, I think, to be like, oh, there's always going to be a competition. Like, maybe we were so spoiled and the fan base was spoiled going into this year because it didn't feel like there was much of that competition, right? It didn't feel like we were going into spring ball being like, okay, who's going to start here?
It was like running back.
It was running back, and even then you were like, okay, it's probably Kyson, right? And then you'll get a hint of Raleek in there. And then you go back to the wide receiver spot, and you're like, okay.
Who's wide receiver 2?
And there wasn't really one. The transfers were practicing with Malik, right? And you obviously knew you had Tyson, and then defensively the only competition was at nickel. Right. And even the competition between Kendrick and Montana was going to be a rotation. Yeah. So, this is the first year since really going into the 2024 season where it's like, okay, you're going to have true competitions really across the board. Outside of, and I know there will be a competition at wide receiver. Emar'rion Miller and Reed Harris are going to be, they're 2 of your 3 starting wide receivers. Exactly. That's the competition. Yeah. But realistically, there's going to be a competition at every single spot along the offensive line. Yeah. There's going to be a competition at quarterback. There's going to be a competition at running back. There's a competition at tight end. The final slot spot at wide receiver is going to have a competition. So that's pretty much your entire offense. On defense, outside of CJ Fite and Boogie Wilson, is everybody else competing? I get Martell Hughes and Cyrus Sayu, or not even there because you just brought in Owen Long.
I think Owen Long, and that's the thing is I guess it's still a competition. I would guess Owen Long starts. Yeah, you probably only look at a couple of guys on defense who are that's going to be your starter. And I mean, Rodney Bimage is certainly somebody that we think could start.
Yeah,
but you're bringing in some DBs. Ashton Stamps is certainly somebody that we think could start, but you never really know. It is going to be really fascinating. That's why you got to be following the show and watching past transfer portal season because we're going to be going through all of it and keeping you up to date with all of it. And I think on that defensive line and just overall, what I'm really fascinated with is there will now be 4 players, correct me if I'm wrong, that should be competing for playing time next year, if not outright starting, that are transferring from a JUCO. Not a lower.
You're talking just on the D line.
Just on the team. Jermaine Mitchell.
Yeah.
Joshua Shanklin, Kirtland Vakalahi, and now Dogmans.
Yeah. There was one other. Hiram. Hiram also.
Oh, and Hiram. Yeah. Hiram. So 5.
Yeah.
That are
from the JUCO level.
From the JUCO level.
Yeah.
I am fascinated to see how many of them hit and who hits. I think Jermaine Mitchell is obviously your safest bet, but Joshua Shanklin, the top defensive end out of JUCO or edge out of JUCO last year, right? You're looking at Dogmans, who's a top 20 JUCO defensive lineman, right?
You missed it. Jeffrey Mans, also known as Dogmans.
I'm gonna call him that.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
You've got proven JUCO players, and I mean we had Kirtland on the show, and he was great. He seemed like he's gonna be a guy with a good head on his shoulders, and he's got a good build, and it seems like he could possibly compete and produce as well.
Yeah.
We don't know as much about Hiram, but you obviously hear a lot about how
somebody used it. Yeah, exactly.
And everything which is important. I'm interested to see how all of that works out. How many of them are rotational contributing pieces? Because if they can be, and the staff continues to prove that their talent evaluation doesn't just go to hey Emar'rion Miller, you're pretty good. Come on in. Hey, Reed Harris, you're pretty good. Come on in. But if they can identify that, Cutter Boley, he's somebody that has had a lot of flaws. Develop him, right? Sam Leavitt was a backup.
I'm pumped, dude. I'm ready. I'm ready for the season to
start.
Got
Marquise Gillis. I'm ready for Morgan. Morgan State doesn't know what's going to hit them.
No, they really don't. That's going to be, I feel bad. I really do feel bad. But I guess they're getting paid to be a part of it. I shout out Bowling Green. for canceling that game in advance of, I think, last year.
Now here's the question: does Morgan State cancel the game?
No, they don't cancel the game. But it's going to be ASU's really only cakewalk of the year based off of their schedule, right? Like it's going to be a gauntlet for the Sun Devils. Now again, we'll see what the actual schedule looks like when it's released, but in terms of like just pure opponents,
it's Morgan State week 1, and then week 2 you're on the road at Kyle Field against Texas A&M.
Yeah, it's gonna be, and of course you got to go to. You get to go
to England
and play
the next week,
Kansas, the Lyric Rawls international game.
Yeah,
that's gonna be fun. I
believe
do have
a game against Hawaii, which is TBA.
I imagine that'll be your week 3 game
because because Kansas, I believe.
It's not at Hawaii. It's here.
Yeah, no, it's here. They play in England week 2.
Week 3.
No. They're gonna play in England, I believe.
No, it's September 19th.
It's already. Oh yeah, I guess it is already.
I think they're playing it.
So week 3.
It's a big. It's a Big 12 game.
Hawaii.
It's week 3. So Hawaii
would be week 5. There's no way they would go.
They'll take a bye.
No. They have a bye that first week of con play for everybody else.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
And then Hawaii would be probably the first.
Probably week 5. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah,
1000%.
Yeah, and then you've played, as far as just conference schedule goes, you play BYU next year
at BYU, right?
You play at BYU. You play at Texas Tech. We just play Texas Tech every single year
so far.
You got
some tough road games.
You play at Texas Tech. Those are 2 road games. Then at UCF and at Arizona are your other 2 road games. Obviously, that Arizona game will be later in the season.
At UCF, so you're going to Texas, then you're going to London, and then you're going to Florida. At some point.
At some point. And then you got home games against Baylor, Colorado, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Realistically, those are not the worst home games.
Again, right now.
But we thought the same thing going into last year.
And you have no idea. We thought Kansas State was going to be a juggernaut this year, and they weren't.
Oklahoma State should be better. Kansas State has a new coach. We'll see how they'll be.
Oklahoma State will be better.
Colorado, Lord knows what Colorado's going to be doing.
It's a toss-up every year for them.
So, I mean, I think you've got some tough games. You got some easier games, but week 2 at Texas A&M.
I'm pumped. David said there's no way that's scheduled with no bye. Yeah, there's a bye in there. They have a bye week following the trip to London. So that'll be good because I plan on staying in Europe for a week or so after that. So
we're going to Dublin and.
Oh yeah, I'm going all over.
Yeah,
Totri takes over Europe. That's what we're doing here.
Totri takeover.
Yeah.
PHNX.
They ain't seen nothing like me in decades.
PHNX Deportes in Spain.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm absolutely down. Totri takes over Italy.
Can't.
Why not?
Can't.
Somebody already did that.
No, you can't. You can't.
I'm gonna take over.
No, I've called.
Who have you talked to?
The
Talked
Pope.
to my guy over there. You talked to the Pope?
Yeah.
The Pope got beef.
I got his number through CHGO. He said you can't go.
That's tough.
Wow.
Tell the Pope I'll be seeing him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review.
Somebody clip that. Send it in our Discord. Somebody clip that and send it in our Discord, please.
Oh man, look, let's talk about the final edition before we talk some ASU hoops. The secondary for ASU.
Yep.
You can't join unless you got a great name. Josiah McGrew.
Awesome.
Welcome to the squad. Somebody that has a ton of playing experience, at least in 2025, transferring over from Florida International. Again, a smaller school, but 67 total tackles as a DB, 2 forced fumbles, 4 INTs. Dude was all over the field. I know I bring this up in terms of like prototypical size. He's 6'2", $185. It's about the height you'd love your DBs to be at least at corner. So I'm excited to see where they put this kid in terms of that quote-unquote competition, because, again, we've talked a lot today specifically about you don't have necessarily proven talent here or there. This somebody who was a freshman last year at Florida International, played a bunch, contributed a bunch. Now your corner room or just your DBs in general, like, there's going to be some combination now of Josiah, Caleb Chester, Ashton Stamps, Rodney Bimage. You look on the back end for the safeties, Lyric Rawls, Boogie Wilson.
Yeah.
Like, now that it's all started to come together, and again, you got to see what it looks like, right, of who competes where. I feel a lot better about where the secondary is at than obviously the day after everybody left.
Well, you start to understand maybe why there was a little bit of an exodus.
Yeah.
Right. And I talked about this in our Die Hard Discord.
It's not always players' decisions
Correct.
to hit the portal.
And I talked about that in the Die Hard Discord. And this was when the Bimage stuff was still up in the air, obviously after some of the deleted tweets and whatnot, but he'll be here. The secondary outside of Keith Abney last season, statistically speaking, was not great. In fact, it was one of the weaker secondaries in the Big 12. I do think part of that is kind of like their defensive system. They do play like a lot of soft coverage, and then they tighten up when you get into the red zone, and they are really effective in the red zone at stopping people from scoring, and the secondary deserves a lot of credit for that. But wouldn't be surprised if they were like, hey, we're going to go get a bunch of people who have played college football. Think about like Ashton Stamps, like played legitimate college football
in the SEC.
Lyric Rouse played legitimate college football in the Big 12, and before that, outside of the Big 12 as well. And then you've got Josiah McGrew, who was all-conference second-team defense last year and has 3 years of eligibility remaining as well. So this is somebody that didn't just play 12 games and had good stats, all the ones that you listed off, but also has more years ahead of him.
A lot more.
And could be somebody that you get in as like a developmental system. And so I feel a lot more comfortable about where the secondary is because you have some veterans, some guys who've been around like Lyric and like Stamps and like Boogie who had been in the system before. And now you're adding some young guys as well. I like it.
Did Lyric play outside of the Big 12? I thought it was.
Who did he play before Kansas? It was Oklahoma State before Kansas. Sorry.
Yeah.
I knew he didn't play at Kansas. The team was slipping my mind. But yeah, he played in the Big 12, but played in Oklahoma State.
I'm really interested to see what this defense looks like, man. Like this is talk about a rebuild at defense. Like, and again, it may be more reload than rebuild, but like just in terms of like who's gonna start, who's gonna play where. Like, I think you look at some of these positions and it's more of like, okay, I think this is what's going to happen. Like at linebacker, I have no idea what's going to happen, right?
I think Martell Hughes, Owen Long, if Zyrus stays, those are like your three that are probably going to be like.
But who comes out as your day one starters?
I think it's Owen Long.
What about Ramir? Ramir had a great year at NAU last year.
Too. I think your starters, if Zyrus stays, I think your starters are Owen Long and Zyrus Fiaseu with Martell Hughes and Ramir shuffling in like more than has been shuffled in before.
Interesting.
I don't think you have like Owen Long. Owen Long has a chance to be one of the best defenses.
I think Owen Long is a lock to start.
And with Zyrus, maybe not. Like maybe it is time for one of those other guys.
I think Martell starts.
I think Martell could start. I think you're having a 4 linebacker rotation, and I think it's going to be a pretty hefty rotation as well. Like I think Owen Long gets a lot of snaps. I think other than that, the other 3 are probably going to be pretty even when it comes to snaps.
He probably gets a lot of snacks too.
Yeah, he probably does eat a lot of snacks.
And this is, I think, this is maybe something that would have been a discussion. Maybe it wouldn't have been a discussion. And maybe this is why I'm not a defensive coordinator at the D1 level. I would have been fascinated at the thought of moving Martell Hughes to safety and playing him the way that teams use like a Kyle Hamilton or a Derwin James, just based off the fact that he's bigger.
He's got the hands too.
Yeah, led the team or was tied or second on the team with interceptions. So like I would have been fascinated to like potentially see if you felt comfortable at the linebacker spot and maybe you didn't get a Lyric Rawls of like a let's move a Martell Hughes back in the secondary, somebody that has the ball skills, that has the size, has the experience playing linebacker, so you could have him in as like a sub package linebacker in and of himself. I don't think that's what they'll do, but I think that's something that certainly is a fascinating, route to explore with some of these players, given the fact that, now this room does feel like it's got a lot more bodies to it. Of course, that's without mentioning the young guys that you got in the class. And again, like the Green M&M brings it up, you can always move him back to safety. I don't know, where does he give you more value? And I think for me, based off the fact that Zyrus is only coming in with one more with one more year of eligibility, I think your best bet is probably Owen Long starting alongside Martell Hughes with Zyrus as your rotational linebacker.
And I could see, again, like a heavy rotation. This year with Crook and Keyshawn, it was like, okay, those are like your guys, and those are going to be getting the lion's share of snaps. I could see them kind of throwing along a bunch of different combinations as well. And having those, Ramir Davis is somebody who's played a lot.
I'm interested to see him too. Man.
Yeah, and some talk in the chat about him possibly coming off of the edge, even though he's a little smaller, but he's super fast. I think having the versatility with with those kind of guys is always going to be good. So, yeah, man, I feel really good about where this team is shaping up to be. I don't know how you couldn't at this point. I know that a lot of the flashier names are really exciting, but I think they've done just as good of a job just filling out names on the roster.
Yeah.
Right? And I know it's maybe a little bit disrespectful to these guys to talk about them as just names on the roster, but
that's what you are right now. But every single person on the roster is right now.
Every program needs rotational pieces and guys that you can hopefully rely on for depth. That's the most important part about being a championship level team, is that you have guys that can step in and that can contribute if something goes wrong with your starters and maybe eventually start for you. So I do think that they've done a really, really good job of balancing all of that out, filling every single position room. They've got their running backs, they've got their wide receivers, they got their quarterbacks, they got their offensive linemen, their defensive linemen, their linebackers, their secondary, like the different parts of the secondary. They've done a little bit of everything. To no surprise. I mean, who would have thought that this staff would be competent in the transfer portal? Who would have thunk it?
Not the folks in Tucson.
And remember, the last time they had to piece together a bunch of transfers, they won a Big 12 championship.
Facts.
So it's not like they've only had rosters of consistency. Last year was almost like an anomaly, where it was like the year before that is a little bit more likely of how you're going to have to build teams going forward, even though 2 years ago was like a crazy portal.
Yeah.
Like it was like, I don't forget how many people they had in
that
portal.
first year.
Yeah, for the not the first year he played, but going into the second year into the Big 12 championship.
They added 30+ players.
Yeah, it was like what Oklahoma State is doing right now in the transfer portal. That's what basically ASU did, and
then turned it into a Big 12 championship.
So, and it's all the same coaches. It's all the same coaches, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, minus Hines, who
Hines was here. Hines was here for the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, but he didn't. Did he hit that recruiting cycle? Because Samp left late.
Samp left in spring ball.
In spring ball, so that was post portal.
Not post the
first portal.
Yeah, at that time there was still multiple portals. So I think
post spring ball portal.
The first receiver
Hines was there for that.
I think the first receiver that Hines added, and I think this is funny. I think I'm correct here. I think the first portal receiver.
Jaron?
Nope. The first portal receiver that he added was in the spring window. Do you know who it was?
Was it my guy?
I think it was your guy. I think Malik McLean transferred at that point in time.
That was an interesting spring window because I was also
Shimon was there too.
Shimon, who is the running back? That played at Alton McCaskill?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's gonna be an ultimate naming dude.
That is gonna be it. I don't even know if 10 years if that's a
He's already a name.
He's already a name that guy kind of guy. Ralph in the chat saying, so you want Adrian Wilson to play next to Adrian Wilson? Yes, I absolutely would like clone Adrian Wilson and have him playing next to each other. Of course, we talk football year round here on the PHNX Sun Devils show, but get to give some love to the Arizona State men's basketball program for their first Big 12 win of the season, ending a 4-game losing streak. They beat Kansas State. Now, granted, it was a close one, but they beat them 87-84 behind Masamba Diop's 21 big ones, 8 of 10 from the floor. Bobby Hurley, congrats on a win.
Yeah, a great comeback win. I will say, I saw some members of the Kansas State basketball team at a shopping mall on their day off. On my day off. I was around with Megan, and I was like, you see those guys? They looked like they had no juice. I knew ASU was
no
playing
juice.
this game.
Yeah.
I was like, these guys, they've got
nobody from Kansas State has juice.
Just by the way that they carry themselves, right? But it's an impressive win for ASU because of the run that they used in the second half, where they basically just flipped a switch and they came back and won this game. Masamba Diop is a NBA player and is one of the most impressive big men in the country. 5 blocks. I believe he led the country for freshmen at blocks per game going into that game.
Second year in a row that at this point in the season, Arizona State is a freshman leading the country in blocks.
It's a little different because Diop, I believe, is 21, if not 20 years old.
Still a freshman, no?
He played, he's a freshman because it's his first year in college basketball.
There you go.
He played overseas in a Division II, like Spanish league, but...
So did I, but nobody cares.
You're also not 7.
See, that's why I'm not me and the Pope don't get along.
But he's been really impressive. Mo Odom also had a really interesting game. A lot of turnovers for Mo Odom that game, but still got the job done. 21 points and 4 assists. Pig Johnson with 18 points. Whole starting lineup, everybody scored in double digits, and they only played a 7-man rotation because of injuries. So to do that, and obviously Kansas State is not a great Big 12 team. They have yet to pick up a Big 12 win, but anytime you can come back, you can come back at home with a 7-man rotation. It is impressive, and I'm really impressed with Jop. I think Jop is likely a one-and-done player at ASU. I think he goes into the draft next year. Given his age and his production, I think he's a late first-round pick.
I think that's fair. And let's talk about this game for what it was. It was a must-win. It was a must-win for ASU. You had lost 4 in a row to some questionable games, or to some questionable schools. You obviously lost on the road by 13 to UCLA. I think people can make your excuses for that, but the inexcusable ones are the 3-point loss to Oregon State. And
6-point loss to Colorado to open up conference.
It's a bad one. It's a bad one. And then if you would have lost to Kansas State to only turn and have to go on the road at U of A and then at Houston, we would have been staring down the gauntlet of potentially 6-7 game losing streak, which is something that is really tough to come back from if that's the way that you were ending non-con and going into conference.
Well, then you play West Virginia, who right now is 11-5. And then you go on and you take on Cincinnati, who's not great, so 8-8. So Cincinnati's really that first game that you look at is like, oh yeah, maybe
you'd be clawing to get there.
Because then after that, you're at UCF, who's 13-2. By the way, it's a brutal conference.
Yeah,
it's a brutal conference,
which we knew that's what it was going to be.
Yeah, you knew that was going to be. I will say the momentum has certainly fallen off from where we felt like they could be after that Santa Clara win, after that Oklahoma win, after that Texas win in Maui. The momentum has fallen off a little bit. Now they have also dealt with injuries, and that is no small reason as to why it's been a little bit tough for them to pull out like these closer games as well. But at the end of the day, go and compete against Arizona.
Yeah,
that's what's important here. Compete against Houston. Those are back-to-back road games. That's not just for ASU, but for anybody in college basketball. That's one of the most brutal 2-game road stretches that you could imagine.
Yeah.
Number 1 Arizona and number 7 Houston is tough.
Shane, do we gotta buy the numbers for this this lovely dub from Bobby Hurley and company? Of course, the only number that matters is that final score. Sun Devils coming out on top, 87-84. Arizona State out shooting Kansas State from the floor, 47% to 40%. And then, from 3-point land, it was abysmal for the Sun Devils.
But that makes me
read those 2 stats again. Read those 2 stats again.
14% for Arizona State from behind the arc to 42%.
But they shot better than Kansas State.
They shot better from the field.
That's so crazy.
It's strange, but it is what it is, as is Arizona State basketball. They out-rebounded Kansas State, not something we say often about Bobby Hurley's teams, but they did out-rebound the Wildcats 48-34. In terms of fouls drawn, 27-17 in favor of Arizona State. And then, like you had mentioned with Masamba Diop earlier, Arizona State dominating in terms of blocks, 10 for ASU, just 3 for the Wildcats. I mean, I'm not even going to ask you what stands out here, but tell me about that 14% to 42%.
They made 3 threes the entire game. 9 of their 87 points came from beyond the arc in Big 2026. Okay? And it's impressive to win a game like this, right? Is this the best basketball team in the world? No, but it's impressive to win a game like this.
Yeah.
I do think that a front court and part of this is because of injuries, because usually Mukeba's coming off of the bench, but a front court of Jop, Mukeba, and Truett is big.
Large.
A very, very big one. That is a total of 8 blocks in your front court, 1 from Truett, 2 from Mukeba, and 5 from Masamba Diop. How about offensive rebounds? Santiago Truett is a rebounding machine. He had 7 offensive rebounds of his 10. And then Alan Mukeba had 3 of his 8 rebounds be offensive. Diop had 4 of his 9 offensive rebounds be offensive.
He's Duke Brennan reincarnated.
14 of ASU's 16 offensive rebounds came from 3 players in the starting lineup. That's an identity, right? That is absolutely an identity. They do need better 3-point shooting. 2 of 7 from deep. Mo Odom, their leading shooter, 2/3 of their threes. The other day.
2/3.
Yeah, man. They need to find a little more shooting. They're really missing Bryce Ford right now from deep. You need Pig to hit a couple threes. He was 0 of 3. You need Grabovich to hit some threes. He was 0 for 4. That's literally what he's on the court to do, is shoot threes. But at the end of the day, to be able to win like that, and we've seen this ASU team, it wasn't surprising that they continued to fight because
That's what they do.
We've seen them fight this whole year. But it was, let's see here, 64-58 Kansas State with 10-ish minutes left to go in the second half. And then after that, ASU just put on an absolute
Went on a run.
beating. Like they and look, Kansas State made a little run at the end. ASU almost handed them the game at the end, but just dominance inside the paint. If you look at the shot chart for ASU, I'll show you here real quick. Just look at there's like
Yeah, no, they own.
Okay, hold up. So 9 points came from threes. Okay, Shane, I'll ask you this: how many total points came outside of the paint for ASU? So 9 points from three. How many total points outside of the paint? So basically, how many mid-range buckets added on to
So
those
you're
9
excluding
points?
the 9.
I'm including the 9.
Oh, you're including the 9.
11.
You're close.
13?
13.
Oh, wow.
They
That's
had
awesome.
They had a free throw. They had a free throw line jumper. Mo Odom made a 17-foot pull-up shot, and then Mo Odom hit an 11-foot pull-up shot just outside the paint. A little nice floater pull-up. They had 13 of their 87 points outside of the paint. That is statistically
Insane.
Impossible to win a game.
They
like
did
that.
though. They won a conference game like that.
That's dude, I knew it was a lot of paint. Like watching the game, you're like, okay, they're scoring in the paint basically at will here, especially in that second half. I didn't realize they only scored 13 points outside of the paint.
You got to give it up to the guy.
That is
give it up to Masamba Diop on that one, man.
crazy. I don't think you'll ever see a game like that again. Even from ASU.
Don't doubt them. Don't doubt Arizona
I
State basketball.
don't think you'll ever see a win where they score 13 points outside of the paint.
Well, now you did. And it's time for Love the Play, brought to you by our
That's the
friends
Love the Play.
over at Arizona Lottery. Make sure you play and gift today. Deli Man, what do you got for a Love the Play of this lovely 3-point dub for the Sun Devils?
How about a there were a couple of Masamba joms. There's no thing. There were a couple of Masamba Job jams.
Okay.
That were nice. But my favorite was I don't remember if it was in the second half. I think it was in the second half. Yeah, because they were shooting on that side. A little shimmy shake. I think he used his left on a hook. He's got it all. He's got a deep bag. Love me some Masamba Job, and continuing to see him develop at this level is interesting. Get healthy, man. Get this team healthy. Yeah. Let's have some fun on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Speaking of Wednesday, Totri, what are we doing?
We're going to do a post-game show on Wednesday.
But don't worry. We will still be live at 1 p.m.
We will. Absolutely. So we will be live Tuesday, Wednesday at our normal times, Thursday as well at our normal time, and then a post-game show Wednesday evening following Arizona State's wild win over Arizona. Just going to throw that out there now, right? You got to speak positive vibes out into the ether. No show on Friday unless something earth-shattering happens. So let's hope that nothing earth-shattering happens. But yes, we will be doing 2 shows on Wednesday. That is going to do it, though, for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devil Show. Appreciate everybody stopping by, joining us on a Monday afternoon to talk about your Arizona State Sun Devils. From the field and football to the hardwood for hoops. Of course, like I said, we will see you guys on Tuesday. If you want to keep up with everything we're doing here on the PHNX Sun Devil Show, make sure you follow the show on social, not just X, but on Instagram as well, at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You could follow Lister Rubis here.
Lister.
Hashtag
Rubis. Listing.
At Erik Ruby. It's Erik with a K. You can follow the Deli Man at Shane D.
He's Alden Lister's cousin.
I was say, yeah. Hashtag Alden Lister.
And we will see you guys on Tuesday. In the meantime, go Devils. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.